Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where, no matter how calmly you speak, the other person just keeps getting louder, more aggressive, or simply refuses to listen? Maybe it's a colleague who always has to have the last word, a family member who turns every discussion into a debate, or even a stranger who tries to push your buttons just to see you react. Most people think the only way to win these moments is to outshout, out-argue, or outlast the other person. But what if I told you that the real power isn't in raising your voice, but in choosing the right words? Words so precise and calm that they silence the noise, command respect, and leave everyone wondering how you did it. Today, I'm going to share 5 smart responses rooted in Stoic wisdom that can silence anyone, not by force but by presence. These aren't comebacks meant to humiliate or win at someone else's expense. They're tools to protect your peace, set boundaries, and show strength without ever losing your cool. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll discover the one response that not only ends arguments, but can actually change how people see you forever. Let's start with a simple truth. Most people confuse volume with authority. They think whoever speaks the loudest wins. But history and philosophy tell a different story. The Stoics, some of the most respected thinkers in history, led empires, survived betrayals, and faced public criticism, all while keeping their composure. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, true strength is quiet. It's not about overpowering others, but about mastering yourself. So, what does this look like in real life? Imagine you're in a meeting. Tensions are high, voices are rising, and someone tries to bulldoze their opinion over everyone else. You feel the urge to push back, to match their energy, to prove you're not someone to mess with. But instead, you take a breath and say, "I don't need to raise my voice to be right." Instantly, the dynamic shifts. You're not playing their game. You're setting a new standard. The room goes quiet, not because you shouted, but because you didn't. This is the first smart response. It's deceptively simple, but incredibly powerful. When you calmly state, "I don't need to raise my voice to be right," you're not just defending yourself. You're showing everyone that your confidence comes from within, not from dominating others. You're reminding them and yourself that logic, not volume, wins respect. And here's the twist. The more calmly you say it, the more impact it has. People expect escalation. When you don't give it to them, they're left with nothing to push against. But what if the other person doesn't back down? What if they try to get under your skin with sarcasm, mockery, or personal attacks? This is where most people lose their footing. The temptation to fire back, to defend yourself, is strong. But the Stoics taught that you can't control what others say, you can only control your response. So, here's your second smart response. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. Let that sink in for a moment. This phrase is like holding up a mirror. You're not attacking, you're not defending. You're simply reflecting their behavior back to them. It's a gentle but firm reminder that their words are a reflection of their own character, not yours. And the best part? It's almost impossible to argue with. When you use this response, you take away their power to provoke you. You show that you're not interested in playing the blame game. You're above it. Think about the last time someone tried to insult you or drag you into a pointless argument. How much energy did you waste trying to prove yourself? Now imagine responding with, "The way you speak says more about you than it does about me." Suddenly, the conversation isn't about you anymore. It's about them. And most people, when faced with their own reflection, don't know what to say next. But let's be honest. Sometimes, no matter how calm or wise you are, the other person just won't stop. They keep interrupting, raising their voice, or refusing to listen. It feels like you're talking to a wall. This is where most people either explode or give up. But there's a third way, a response that not only protects your peace, but also sets a boundary that can't be ignored. Here's the third smart response. Let's talk when we can do so respectfully. Notice the difference here. You're not running away and you're not attacking. You're setting the terms for the conversation. You're making it clear that respect is a non-negotiable, and you're doing it without raising your voice or losing your temper. This response is a game changer. It shifts the focus from the argument itself to the quality of the interaction. You're telling the other person, "I'm willing to listen, but only if we both treat each other with respect." And here's the cliffhanger. The first time you use this phrase, you'll be surprised by what happens next. Sometimes the other person will pause, reflect, and actually lower their tone. Other times they might walk away, but either way, you've protected your peace and set a standard for how you expect to be treated. But what if the conversation keeps going in circles? What if, despite your best efforts, the other person just wants to argue for the sake of arguing? This is where the fourth smart response comes in, a response that's not about winning, but about knowing when to walk away. There's a moment in every heated conversation when you realize nothing you say will change the other person's mind. Maybe they're arguing just to win, or maybe they're so caught up in their own emotions that they can't hear you at all. This is where most people get trapped, repeating themselves, getting frustrated, and losing their peace in the process. But the Stoics believed that your energy is precious, and you have the right to decide where you spend it. That's why the fourth smart response is so powerful. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. At first, this might sound abrupt, but think about it. You're not slamming the door. You're simply choosing not to waste your time and energy on a pointless argument. You're making it clear that your peace matters more than having the last word. And here's the beauty of this response. It's not about running away or avoiding conflict. It's about self-respect. You're showing that you value your own boundaries, and you're not afraid to enforce them. Imagine you're in a discussion that's going nowhere. The other person keeps repeating themselves, or maybe they're just trying to provoke you. Instead of getting pulled into their drama, you calmly say, "I'd prefer not to continue this conversation." The effect is immediate. The tension drops. You've taken back control, not by overpowering, but by stepping away. And in that moment, you remind everyone watching that real strength is knowing when to walk away. But what if the person is someone close to you, a friend, a family member, or a colleague you care about? What if you want to stand your ground without damaging the relationship? This is where the fifth and final smart response comes in, and it's perhaps the most elegant of all. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. This phrase is a masterclass in setting boundaries with kindness. You're acknowledging the other person's right to their perspective, but you're also making it clear that you have your own. There's no need for a debate, no need to convince or be convinced. You're simply stating your truth, calmly and respectfully. And here's the twist. When you use this response, you often find that the other person has nothing left to argue about. You've closed the door to pressure, but left the window open for mutual respect. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on what these 5 responses have in common. None of them are about winning in the traditional sense. They're not about crushing your opponent or proving you're smarter. Instead, they're about protecting your peace, commanding respect, and showing strength through self-mastery. This is the heart of Stoic wisdom, choosing your response no matter what chaos is happening around you. But here's the real secret. When you start using these responses, people notice. They start to treat you differently. You become the person who doesn't get rattled, who doesn't take the bait, who stands firm without ever raising their voice. And over time, you'll find that people begin to listen more carefully when you speak. They measure their words. They respect your boundaries. Not because you demanded it, but because you inspired it. Now, you might be wondering, does this really work in the real world? The answer is yes, and the proof is everywhere. Just look at the comments on videos like this. People share stories of how these phrases changed their relationships, helped them walk away from toxic arguments, and even brought them more peace than they thought possible. Some say they used to feel exhausted after every confrontation, but now, with a few calm words, they keep their dignity and their energy intact. But here's the final cliffhanger. Mastering these responses isn't just about what you say to others. It's about what you say to yourself. Every time you choose calm over chaos, every time you set a boundary with respect, you're training your mind to value your own peace. You're building a habit of self-mastery that goes far beyond any single conversation. And that, in the end, is the real victory. So, let's recap the 5 smart responses that will silence anyone, not by force, but by presence. 1. I don't need to raise my voice to be right. 2. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. 3. Let's talk when we can do so respectfully. 4. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. 5. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. If you start using these phrases, you'll notice a shift, not just in how others treat you, but in how you see yourself. You'll find that you don't need to fight for respect. You simply embody it. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Before you go, I want you to do 3 things. First, if you found value in these responses, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom and practical tools for a stronger, calmer life. Second, like this video so that others who need this message can find it. And third, write in the comments, which of these 5 responses are you going to use first? I'd love to hear your story and see how these words work for you. Remember, respect isn't something you demand, it's something you inspire. And the most powerful voice in any room is the one that doesn't need to shout,